What if I told you that the very freedom you crave as a trader might actually be the same thing that chains you down? You came into trading to escape limits, to taste the thrill of possibility, to build a life on your own terms. Yet here you are, staring at a glowing screen, drowning in indicators, setups, and endless choices, feeling more trapped than ever. If you've ever felt that weight, stay with me, because this message could change the way you see not just trading, but life itself. Imagine this. You sit down at your desk, coffee in hand, heart steady, ready to conquer the market. The world is at your fingertips. Hundreds of tickers, dozens of strategies, thousands of opinions. Freedom, right? The power to choose whatever path you want, the luxury of infinite possibilities. But slowly that excitement shifts. That freedom begins to feel heavier, not lighter. Instead of clarity, you feel fog. Instead of confidence, doubt. You scroll, you analyze, you switch charts, you chase indicators. And suddenly you realize you spent an hour staring, yet made no move at all. What was supposed to feel like empowerment has turned into paralysis. And here lies the paradox. We were told that more choice equals more control, more opportunity, more freedom. But in reality, too much choice can feel like no choice at all. Our minds are wired to crave clarity, not endless possibility. Every extra option demands mental energy, an evaluation, a weighing of outcomes, a risk calculation. And when the options multiply, so does the pressure. Each decision feels like the potential for disaster. Each trade you don't take whispers of regret, and suddenly the feast of options tastes more like poison than nourishment. Think about the psychology behind it. As humans, we are not built for infinite forks in the road. We evolved in environments where choices were limited. Hunt here or there, eat this or go hungry. In the modern trading world, however, we face hundreds of variables simultaneously, all screaming for attention. Our brains short-circuit under the weight. That's why the very thing we thought would empower us, having all the data, all the possibilities, can leave us stuck, second-guessing every move, paralyzed in front of opportunity. You've probably felt it, that spiral of hesitation. What if this entry isn't the best? What if another pair is setting up better? What if my strategy fails, but that other one would have worked? And as you hesitate, time slips by, the setup fades, and regret punches you harder than any loss could have. The paradox of choice is not that you lack options. It's that you have too many, and with each one comes a shadow of the others you didn't take. And it doesn't stop there. The more choices you face, the heavier the weight of responsibility feels. If you had only two options and one failed, it was simple. You tried, it didn't work. But when you had 50 and you picked one, and it failed, your mind tortures you with the possibility that one of the other 49 would have worked. That's not just a trade gone wrong. That's a personal failure, magnified by all the ghosts of the trades you didn't take. No wonder traders feel crushed. No wonder confidence cracks. But here's the deeper truth. This is not just a trading issue. It's a human issue. Walk into a supermarket today, and you face 100 brands of cereal, 40 types of water, endless aisles of possibility. And yet, rather than feeling abundance, people often feel stress. Studies show that when given fewer options, people report greater satisfaction with their choice. When faced with more, they often freeze, delay, or regret the decision afterward. Choice without structure becomes chaos. And chaos is the enemy of clarity. Now, why does this matter so much for you, the trader? Because trading is decision-making at high speed with real money on the line. Paralysis in the supermarket might cost you time, but paralysis in the markets costs you opportunities. And opportunities are everything. The market rewards action, not reckless action, but decisive, structured action. And yet, when the infinite feast is spread before us, most of us starve at the table, too afraid to take a bite. So let me ask you a hard question. Is your freedom serving you or enslaving you? Because the very thing you call freedom may be the reason you feel stuck, hesitant, and frustrated. The abundance of choice is seductive, but unless you learn how to cut through the noise, it will always own you. The paradox of choice isn't a curse. It's a mirror. It shows us that the problem isn't the market or the strategies or the indicators. The problem is how we handle freedom itself. True freedom doesn't come from having every possible path available. It comes from the ability to choose one path, commit, and move forward without drowning in regret, over the roads not taken. So, as you sit down at your trading desk tomorrow, I challenge you, don't measure your freedom by the number of charts you open or the strategies you collect. Measure it by your ability to act with clarity. Because in the end, the traders who win are not the ones who see everything. They're the ones who decide something. The market doesn't reward hesitation. It rewards those who can transform freedom from a burden into a weapon. And that transformation begins not with more choices, but with better decisions. The infinite feast will always be there, but whether you savor it or choke on it, that's up to you. But let me ask you something. If the human brain is the most advanced decision-making machine on the planet, then why does it so often fail us when it matters the most? Why do we freeze, doubt, and hesitate, even when we've studied, practiced, and prepared? Shouldn't a mind that can send rockets to space be able to pick a trade without collapsing into fear? The answer lies in how we are wired. Our brains were designed for survival, not for analyzing endless streams of data and probabilities. Thousands of years ago, decisions were simple. Fight or flee, eat or starve, trust or avoid. These were binary choices with immediate consequences. But the modern world, and especially trading, throws us into a storm of complex variables, competing signals, and uncertain outcomes. The brain, still carrying its ancient survival hardware, reacts to this flood of information as if it were a threat. That's where analysis paralysis begins. When you're staring at 10 different setups, 5 conflicting indicators, and countless opinions online, your brain interprets the overload as danger. The amygdala, the part of your brain responsible for the fight or flight response, flares up. Instead of calmly processing, you feel your heart race, your palms sweat, and your thoughts scatter. You're not lazy. You're in survival mode. Your system is screaming. If I choose wrong, I could lose. If I lose, I might fail. If I fail, I'm unsafe. It's not rational, but it's deeply human. And then comes a silent killer, opportunity cost. Every choice you don't make carries the ghost of what could have been. If you enter a trade and it fails, you don't just deal with the loss. You wrestle with the possibility that another trade might have been the winner. That regret stings sharper than the loss itself, because it whispers that you made the wrong call. And so, next time, you hesitate longer. You stall. You double-check, triple-check. And by the time you're ready, the chance has vanished. Decision fatigue seeps in, making even simple choices feel like climbing a mountain. It's important to understand that this paralysis is not weakness. It is a biological response to overload. Just like a computer freezes when too many programs are running, the human brain shuts down when forced to evaluate too much data at once. Studies in behavioral psychology confirm this. When presented with fewer choices, people act faster, feel more confident, and regret less. When faced with excess option, however, performance declines sharply. It's not your lack of discipline. It's the architecture of your mind being stretched beyond its design. And trading magnifies this pressure because, unlike shopping for a cereal brand or picking a shirt, every choice here has financial consequences. Real money, real risk. Your brain doesn't separate financial loss from physical danger. It reacts to both with the same survival mechanisms. That's why one wrong trade can haunt you for days. That's why one missed entry can feel like failure. The stakes trick your nervous system into believing your safety is on the line, when in reality, it's only your account balance. Now, think about how this compounds. You wake up, scan the markets, and tell yourself, today, I will be decisive. But as soon as you face the chaos of options, your prefrontal cortex, the rational part of your brain, gets hijacked by fear signals. Instead of making one clear decision, you end up making none. Or worse, you make a rush decision out of panic. Both paths lead to the same place, regret. And with each cycle, confidence erodes, turning trading into a battlefield not between you and the market, but between you and your own mind. But here's where the paradox becomes clear. The same brain that overwhelms you is also capable of extraordinary clarity. The difference lies not in the market, but in how you train yourself to handle the flood of information. The truth is, you don't need to eliminate the overwhelm. You need to reframe it. To see it not as proof of your inadequacy, but as evidence that your brain is doing exactly what it was designed to do, protect you from harm. The problem is, the harm it perceives isn't always real. And this is where the shift happens. Once you understand that analysis paralysis is a biological glitch, not a personal flaw, you can begin to work with it instead of against it. You can recognize the moment when your brain is spiraling into overload and step back, breathe, and reset. You can create systems to narrow your focus, to protect your energy from being drained by endless possibilities. You can learn to separate the instinctive fear response from the rational evaluation of risk. So let me return to the question I asked at the beginning. If the brain is the most advanced decision-making machine on Earth, why does it break under pressure? The answer is that it doesn't truly break. It defaults. It reverts to ancient survival patterns that are misaligned with modern complexity. Your brain isn't failing you. It's protecting you the only way it knows how. The real task is to train it for a new battlefield, to teach it that not every overload is a threat, not every choice is life or death, and that clarity doesn't come from more analysis, but from mastering the art of less. Because once you understand this, you stop seeing overwhelm as weakness. You see it as a signal. And once you learn to decode that signal, you reclaim control, not just of your trading, but of your mind itself. And this paralysis doesn't just live in theory. It plays out every single day in the lives of traders just like you. Think about the explosion of new assets in recent years. Once upon a time, the trading world was limited. Stocks, a few commodities, maybe some currencies. Today, you're bombarded with crypto coins being launched every hour, NFTs promising overnight riches, exotic options offering complex payoffs, endless derivatives and strategies marketed as the next big thing. The sheer volume of possibilities isn't just overwhelming, it's suffocating. Every asset feels like a door to fortune, and every door you don't open feels like a missed destiny. Picture yourself scrolling through your trading app. Bitcoin is moving. Ethereum is setting up. Some obscure altcoin is spiking 200% in a single day. And meanwhile, an influencer is screaming about a breakout in a completely different market. Your focus scatters like shattered glass. You feel pulled in a dozen directions at once. Instead of locking onto one clear plan, you keep chasing shadows. And by the time you decide where to act, the opportunity is already gone. Not because the market beat you, but because you hesitated in the trap of too many choices. And it's not just about the assets. It's about the strategies, too. Every corner of the internet promises the secret. One guru swears by Fibonacci retracements. Another preaches supply and demand zones. Someone else insists indicators are useless, while another sells a magic algorithm that never loses. Your YouTube feed, your Twitter timeline, your Discord groups, they're all filled with conflicting voices telling you that their way is the only way. And so you sit there, drowning in information, try and combine 5 different systems into one. What happens? You end up with noise. You lose clarity. You freeze. Because with every new piece of advice, you feel the possibility of making the wrong choice grow heavier. And let's be honest, we've all fallen into this trap. We've all sat staring at a chart, convinced that if we just waited for the perfect entry, we'd be safe. That if we analyzed one more indicator, read one more article, or double-checked one more confirmation, we'd finally catch the flawless trade. But perfection is a mirage. The pursuit of it leaves us paralyzed. And while we're waiting for perfect, the market keeps moving, opportunities slip by. And ironically, the fear of loss creates the very losses we were trying to avoid. Think about this. How many times have you looked back on a chart and said to yourself, I knew it, I saw it, I should have taken it? That's not hindsight, it's paralysis speaking. The setup was there, but fear, doubt, and the weight of too many possibilities froze you in place. And while you stood still, traders who acted, not perfectly, not flawlessly, but decisively, were rewarded. The trap is subtle because it convinces you that waiting is safe. But in markets, waiting without purpose is just another form of losing. Now, let's widen the lens for a moment. This trap isn't unique to trading. It's the same psychology that keeps people stuck in life. The person who never starts a business because they're waiting for the perfect time. The student who never submits their work because it could be better. The individual who never commits to a relationship because they're scared a better option might appear. It's the same paralysis, just dressed in different clothes. And in trading, the cost is amplified because the market punishes hesitation more brutally than life does. Time is money, and indecision is the most expensive habit you can afford. One of the cruelest tricks of this trap is how it feeds on our deepest desire: control. Traders chase the perfect strategy, the perfect signal, the perfect entry, because deep down they believe that certainty will protect them from pain. But here's the harsh truth: certainty doesn't exist in markets. The more you chase it, the more you give away your power. The illusion of total control is the bait, and paralysis is the hook. I want you to remember this. Missing opportunities isn't about lack of knowledge. It's about lack of action. Paralysis disguises itself as intelligence. It whispers, "You're being careful, you're being smart, you're being thorough." But in reality, it robs you the only thing that separates a trader from a dreamer: execution. Information without action is nothing. Charts, indicators, and strategies are only tools. And tools are useless if they never leave the box. So, when you find yourself lost in the trap, ask yourself, am I analyzing or am I avoiding? Am I truly preparing, or am I just stalling because I'm afraid of imperfection? Because the irony is this: while you're stuck searching for the flawless trade, the flawed but good enough trades are passing you by. And those are the trades that build consistency. Those are the trades that create growth. The trader's trap is not about markets being unfair or strategies being flawed. It's about us. It's about our obsession with finding certainty in a game that thrives on uncertainty. The traders who escape this trap aren't the ones who know more. They're the ones who accept that they'll never know everything, that perfection is illusion, and that decisive action beats endless hesitation every time. And maybe that's the lesson hidden inside this trap. Not that we must avoid mistakes at all costs, but that mistakes are part of the path. That a trader who acts imperfectly will always go further than a trader who waits endlessly for perfect conditions. Because the market doesn't reward perfection. It rewards participation. And this is where the real question rises. If paralysis is a trap, then how do we escape it? How do we stop drowning in choices and start trading with clarity and conviction? The truth is, the answer isn't fewer choices. It's stronger frameworks for making them. Because the market will never stop offering you more. There will always be new assets, new signals, new strategies, new voices. Waiting for the world to simplify isn't realistic. The key is learning to simplify for yourself. The first step is defining your criteria. Most traders get lost because they walk into the market without boundaries, open to every possibility, hoping they'll know it when they see it. But the market rewards structure, not hope. When you create a clear set of rules, your time frames, your setups, your risk tolerance, you transform chaos into order. Suddenly, instead of staring at 10 charts and wondering which to take, you already know which ones don't fit your system, and they disappear from your mind. You're no longer reacting to everything. You're filtering ruthlessly, focusing only on what matters to you. This is where the idea of limiting options comes in. Not because the market is lacking, but because your attention is finite. Think of your focus like currency. If you spend it on everything, it becomes worthless. But if you spend it wisely, on only the setups that align with your plan, its value multiplies. Great traders aren't those who see the most. They're those who ignore the most. They filter. They cut out the noise. They trade less, but with more intent. The second principle is embracing the good enough mindset. Perfection is a trap, but good enough is freedom. You don't need the perfect entry to be profitable. You need a consistently repeatable process. If your setup aligns with your plan, even if it isn't flawless, it's valid. The truth is, the edge in trading doesn't come from catching perfection. It comes from managing imperfection. A slightly late entry, a less than ideal candle, a bit of volatility. None of these destroy a trader who manages risk. But the habit of waiting endlessly for flawless conditions will destroy every trader who practices it. And here's something few talk about. Action itself builds clarity. The more you act, the more feedback you receive. Each trade becomes a teacher. Each outcome sharpens your instincts. In contrast, endless pre-analysis teaches you nothing, because theory without action is sterile. The market rewards participation, not hesitation. Even when you lose, you gain something invaluable. Data about yourself, your system, and your psychology. That is how growth happens, not in the safety of waiting, but in the risk of doing. Another powerful tool is the use of frameworks. This could be as simple as a trading checklist you review before every entry, or as advanced as an algorithmic rule set that filters signals automatically. The point isn't complexity. The point is consistency. A framework reduces the weight of decision-making, sparing your brain from drowning in uncertainty. When you know your steps, you act without overthinking. And when you act without overthinking, you reclaim the energy that paralysis was stealing from you. But escaping the labyrinth isn't just about rules. It's also about mindset. You must learn to detach from the outcome of any single trade. Paralysis thrives on the illusion that each choice must be perfect, that one wrong move will define you. But when you adopt the mindset of a scientist rather than a gambler, everything changes. A scientist runs experiments, gathers results, and adjusts. They don't freeze because one experiment might fail. They know that failure is information. As a trader, adopting that mindset allows you to move decisively. Each trade becomes a data point, not a life or death moment. Think about how liberating this shift is. Instead of staring at the screen in fear, wondering whether the setup is the one, you act, knowing that whether it wins or loses, it pushes you forward. Wins give you profit. Losses give you lessons. Either way, you progress. Paralysis, on the other hand, gives you nothing. No progress, no clarity, no feedback. Just the illusion of safety while time and opportunity slip away. And maybe the most practical strategy of all is learning to trust your process more than your emotions. Fear, doubt, and hesitation will never vanish completely. They're part of being human. But when you build a structured plan, you don't need them to vanish. You only need to act despite them. Confidence isn't the absence of fear. It's the willingness to move even when fear whispers in your ear. Each time you do, the fear loses power, and decisiveness becomes your new default. So, escaping the labyrinth doesn't mean avoiding the complexity of markets. It means facing it with clarity, armed with systems, discipline, and the courage to act without demanding perfection. It means redefining freedom not as the ability to choose everything, but as the power to focus on what matters and ignore the rest. It means turning choice from a burden into a tool. And here's the irony. When you stop chasing perfection, when you filter your focus, when you accept imperfection and keep moving, you discover that freedom was never the problem. The problem was how you handled it. The labyrinth wasn't the market. It was your own mind. And once you escape that, trading stops being an endless maze and becomes something far simpler. A process, a practice, a path you can walk with confidence. And when you begin to act with clarity instead of hesitation, something remarkable happens. You start to experience freedom in its truest form. Not the fake freedom of endless options that leave you paralyzed, but the real freedom of intentional choice. Freedom is not about opening 100 doors at once. It's about choosing one door with conviction and walking through it without constantly looking back at all the doors you didn't open. That shift changes everything, not only in trading, but in the way you approach life itself. Because once you embrace structured decision-making, you no longer wake up overwhelmed by the chaos of the market. You wake up with purpose. You know what you're looking for. You know what fits your criteria. And you know what doesn't deserve your attention. The clutter begins to fade. You're not chasing every flashing light or every rumor of opportunity. You're filtering with precision. And in that clarity, you find strength. Suddenly, the market stops feeling like a storm that tosses you around and starts feeling like a landscape you can navigate. This is where intent becomes a defining force. A trader without intent is like a sailor without a compass, drifting endlessly, hoping the wind will take them somewhere good. But a trader with intent becomes a captain of their own ship. Every move they make has direction. Every trade they take is aligned with a purpose, whether it wins or loses. And when you begin to live inside that intent, doubt loses its grip. Even losses no longer sting in the same way, because they fit inside the bigger picture of your journey. They become stepping stones instead of stumbling blocks. Confidence, then, is no longer something you chase. It's something you create. Each decision you make with clarity reinforces your belief in yourself. Each execution builds trust in your own process. It's not about being right every time. It's about proving to yourself that you can act, you can commit, and you can move forward regardless of uncertainty. That is the kind of confidence that lasts, not the shaky confidence that depends on a winning streak, but a deep-rooted belief that you are capable of navigating whatever the market throws at you. And as that confidence grows, trading transforms. It's no longer about chasing the next big win or fearing the next big loss. It's about playing a long game with steady intent. You start to see the beauty of small, consistent action. You realize that growth doesn't come from extraordinary moments of perfection, but from ordinary moments of discipline, repeated again and again. The obsession with a perfect trade fades, replaced by the quiet power of the next trade. And in that mindset, the pressure lifts. You're no longer weighed down by the burden of choice. You're lifted by the clarity of purpose. Freedom, then, is not chaos. Freedom is structure. Freedom is know yourself so well and your system so deeply that you no longer fear the endless options around you. You don't need them because you've already chosen your path. That's the paradox most traders miss. The fewer decisions you allow yourself, the freer you become. The tighter your rules, the wider your sense of ease. The more you embrace limits, the more limitless you feel. And this principle expands far beyond trading. In life, too, the people who live with intent are the ones who feel the most free. They don't waste their energy on every distraction. They don't drown in what-ifs. They commit, they act, and they refine. They understand that clarity is not about knowing everything. It's about knowing what matters most and letting go of the rest. The same freedom you reclaim in trading can become the freedom you reclaim in every decision you make. So start small. Don't pressure yourself to master everything at once. Pick one market, one strategy, one time frame. Commit to it. Refine it. Let it teach you. Allow your confidence to grow step by step, trade by trade. Because freedom doesn't come in a single leap. It comes in a steady rhythm of consistent intent. That's how you transform the weight of endless choices into the lightness of decisive action. And when that shift happens, trading stops being a source of stress and starts becoming what it was always meant to be, a tool to build not just wealth, but mastery over yourself. The market becomes less of an enemy and more of a mirror, showing you your discipline, your patience, your growth. And with every decisive action, you move closer not just to financial success, but to personal freedom. So when you sit down tomorrow, staring at your charts, remember this. Freedom isn't in the noise of 100 options. It's in the clarity of one decisive choice. Choose with intent, act with purpose, and let the results teach you. Because the true reward of trading isn't the money. It's the freedom you gain when you stop being paralyzed by endless possibilities and start moving with clarity. That is when you finally reclaim the freedom you were searching for all along. In the end, the paradox of choice teaches us something far deeper than trading alone. It shows us that freedom without clarity is not freedom at all. It is a prison of hesitation. We chase more data, more strategies, more signals, thinking that abundance will bring confidence, when in reality, it only brings confusion. The truth is simple. Clarity does not come from more. It comes from less. It comes from choosing, committing, and acting with intent. The market will always tempt you with infinite options. It will always whisper that there is a better trade, a safer entry, a more perfect system. But those whispers are illusions. The real power belongs to the trader who stops searching for perfection and starts executing with discipline. To the trader who redefines freedom not as chasing every possibility, but as walking one path with conviction. And so, the choice is yours. You can remain in the labyrinth, trapped by hesitation, weighed down by the burden of endless options, or you can reclaim your freedom by filtering, focusing, and acting with clarity. Not tomorrow, not someday, today. So here's my challenge to you. The next time you sit down to trade, don't open 10 charts. Don't drown yourself in 100 signals. Choose one, set up one opportunity, and act. Win or lose, you'll gain something far greater than profit. You will gain momentum, because action is the cure to paralysis, and intent is a foundation of true freedom. If this message resonates with you, then don't just listen, apply it. Start simplifying your trading. Start trusting your process, and start reclaiming the freedom you were searching for all along. And if you want to keep exploring the psychology behind trading, decision-making, and the deeper battles we fight within ourselves, then stay connected. Subscribe, share this with someone who needs it, and continue walking this journey with me. Because the markets don't reward those who hesitate. They reward those who act with clarity. And your moment to act is now.